is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Well, John Travolta was here last night. Remember that old show he was on, Welcome Back, Kotter? Well, it was Welcome Back night last night for Adam Duvall. He'd been out with an injury. Jose Peraza brought up from the minor leagues. And both homered en route as the Reds beat up the Dodgers 11-1 for a season-high 5th straight win. And we welcome you back to Great American Ballpark on this gorgeous, and I mean beautiful, Sunday afternoon. Game 3 of 4, the Reds taking on the Dodgers. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds baseball. And man, oh man, during this 5-game winning streak, the Reds have put all phases of the game together. But on offense, Chris, it has really been something to watch.
Well, it takes some pressure off the pitching when you can get out there and score early. The Reds have done that on this streak, no doubt about it. But when you start looking at the ranks, you really realize how they have been very impressive out there. Second in batting average, third in runs per game, scored nearly 7 runs a game, and 7th in slugging. So they're hitting the ball out of the ballpark. They're driving in runners in scoring position. They're doing the little things, getting good defense, and obviously that pitching has been carrying him as well.
And speaking of pitching, the man who, since coming off the disabled list, missed more than a couple of months, has become their ace of this staff, and that's right-hander Anthony DeSclafani, who gets a ball here today.
Well, in his very short major league career, this has been a very short sample size, but by far the best that he's pitched. I mean, he's gone out there and really have dedicated himself. He missed 10 weeks at the beginning of the year with an abdominal injury, but he has got full speed right now, 7-1, keeps the ball down, trying to keep it in the ballpark. 13 starts, 10 of those quality starts. So you can rely on DeSclafani pretty much time in and time out to give you a good, consistent outing.
His mound opponent today, we've read a lot about him, heard a lot about him, a top-ranked prospect in the Dodger organization, but getting his feet wet in the major leagues is Julio Urias. What do we know about him?
Well, we know that baseball has been very easy for him growing up. He's a guy that has always been a hard thrower. As a youngster in Mexico, he was a home run hitter as a youth player. But, you know, when you come to the major leagues, it's a little different. Now, he's only gone into the 6th inning a couple of times in his 10 starts, but his stuff, well, it is electric. Mid-90s fastball, good breaking ball, a nice changeup. And the Reds are going to have to figure out how to catch up to the fastball, because changeup and fastball probably are his 2+ pitches.
Our old buddy, the late great Joe Nuxall, used to talk about anybody is dangerous when they have a bat in hand. And that has been the story for the Reds pitchers the last couple of nights. Our buddy Jim Day standing by with that and more on Fox Sports Ohio.
I was brought to you by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time.
Well, yesterday we had the nasty storms around. We had some heavy rain, even some lightning at times, not during the day today. The same cold front that brought all the nasty storms yesterday clearing us out. No chance of rain, 0%. Much lower humidity than yesterday, too. 79 will just about be our high temperature. Yeah, barely even making it to 80 degrees. Enjoy the game here on Fox Sports Ohio.
I'm Jim Day. Last night, the Reds had 13 hits before the Dodgers had 1. It's been going so good for the Reds. Even the pitchers are getting in on the action. Check out our IGS bringing the energy. We've seen a couple of first major league hits. Tim Adelman, 2 RBI double in his first big league hit. The emotional home run of Michael Lorenzen. And then yesterday was Brandon Finnegan. Last 2 games overall, you see the numbers. Pitchers, 3 for 5, 2 doubles, a home run, 5 RBIs. They drew a walk. Finnegan did last night. And they have scored 4 runs. They've been pitching well and hitting well. Can they come up with their 3rd straight victory over the Dodgers on a postcard kind of day in the Queen City? Tom and Chris are on deck with the call.
Cincinnati, what with all the rain and the humidity we've had of late, none of that here today. And some of the youngsters out on the field are waiting for the Reds to come on out and take their positions. And just before they start, each of those youngsters will receive an autograph. And here come the Reds, trying to make it a season-high 6 consecutive wins. Very nicely done, as they do each and every Sunday here at Great American Ballpark. Let's take a look at the Dodgers starting lineup under their manager Dave Roberts. Dodgers a half game behind the Giants for the top spot in the National League West, and they are the leaders in the wild card. Chase Utley at second, Seager back in there at short, Justin Turner at third. Adrian Gonzalez, a cleanup hitter. Yasmani Grandal catching. And Josh Reddick is in right. A ladder third of Jock Peterson, the center fielder. Andrew Tolles gets the nod out in left field. And Julio Urias is on the mound, making his 11th start. Making his 14th start for the Reds, and what a year it has been since getting healthy for Anthony DeSclafani. He tries to become the first Red starter to begin a season 8-1 since Edinson Volquez did in 2008.
Well, one thing to remember about the Dodgers, when they face a right-handed pitcher, they run out a much better lineup. They're miserably bad against left-handers, and Brandon Finnegan took advantage of that last night. So the Reds have a very strong and fresh bullpen on hand in the event that DeSclafani runs into trouble. But he doesn't run into trouble very much. In fact, when you've got a 7-1 record and 10 quality starts in 13 tries, DeSclafani shows you that he's a guy that came off a long stint on that disabled list, but he's raring and ready to go and throwing the ball probably as well as he has in his entire major league career.
All right, so here we go. Long-time All-Star while with the Philadelphia Phillies. Chase Utley to lead things off. Not having the kind of seasons that Utley had seemingly year after year with the Phillies, but not bad. 254, 10 home runs, 39 batted in. And it's in there, Steve Reich, 1, and we're underway. Utley now 37 years young. Was born in Pasadena, California, and was drafted all the way back in the second round, believe it or not, in 1997 out of Long Beach Poly High School, but did not sign. The Phillies would draft him 3 years later in the first round, and of course he did sign. 2 balls and a strike. Among all active second basemen, Utley ranks second in virtually every offensive category. And he's added to some of those categories right here. Blasted to the seats and right, and that's a home run to start it for Utley.
Boy, at 37 years old, Chase Utley shows a pretty quick bat, doesn't he? DeSclafani struggles with 2 breaking pitches in a row, so on a 2-1 count, he is betting the farm he's going to get a fastball. And not only does he get a fastball, he gets it right up here in the hitting zone, and he is all over it. A 2-seamer that, well, they usually don't survive when you throw them belt high.
Well, Chris mentioned that this is a much more formidable Dodger lineup when you start a right-hander against him. And the only knock on DeSclafani this year, his struggles against left-handed batters. And boy, there's certainly a category that DeSclafani will get better in. Left-handers are hitting over 320 against him. That's a 21st extra base hit by a left-handed batter against DeSclafani, and he's only allowed 27 of those all year long.
Well, really, and the main reason is because his slider's not as effective against left-handers as it is against right-handers. It darts down and away against right-handers. It comes right into the wheelhouse, and that's a nice one he throws right there. Took a little bit off that pitch. Almost a kind of a slower slider, maybe even call it a power curveball. But this is the one he has to really get used to doing. Keeping the ball down, changing speeds, and I think as the game progresses and his career progresses, the changeup is going to be the biggest pitch he's going to throw against left-handers to get him off that fastball. He's not thrown one yet today.
1 out, 1 in, and here's Justin Turner, a right-handed batter. 277 average, 23 home runs, and 72 runs batted in. DeSclafani takes care of him on 1 pitch for out number 2. Look at the Reds on defense. Presented by Ford. And the only changes from last night in right field, Tyler Holt in place of Schebler. Votto, a rare day off at first, replaced by De Jesus. And Tucker Barnhart back in there behind the plate. Now Adrian Gonzalez sporting a 13-game hitting streak, and he ended the no-hit bid of Brandon Finnegan here last night. Finnegan going the front six of hitless, scoreless ball, and Gonzalez changed that with a clean single to center, leading off the 7th inning. Dodgers wound up with a total of 3 hits in the game. Did not score until the 9th inning against Josh Smith.
Gonzalez doesn't like it. It was C.B. Buckner. He's the one that confirmed that ring-up job on Alex Gonzalez right there, that he did attempt to swing at that pitch. He was also the home plate umpire last night. At the very last out of the game was a strikeout. And Jock Peterson was the batter at the plate, and he was called on a pitch that he thought was not a strike zone. It's not in the strike zone. This is it last night. So Peterson's on his way to first. That's strike 3, the 4th strikeout of the night for Jock Peterson, and he went off the field jawing with C.B. Buckner.
Sinking liner into center. Hamilton will get it, and that's all for the Dodgers. But they get the long ball from Utley and take a 1-0 lead with the Reds coming up. Utley home run to lead off the game, and let's take a look at Brian Price's starting lineup today. Of course, the big omission would be Votto, who's been white hot for the better part of 2.5 months. So Hamilton, Peraza, Phillips to start it. Duvall, Suarez, De Jesus for Votto in the 6 hole. Holt, Barnhart, DeSclafani against 20-year-old Julio Urias. 20 years and 9 days. Youngest starting pitcher to start a game here in Cincinnati since the great Doc Gooden. On the 20th of July 1984, Gooden was 19 years old.
Julio Urias is a young man. He's only 20 years old, so he really ought to be out pitching in junior college somewhere right now instead of the major leagues. But when you're as good as he is, and he has been very good ever since the Dodgers signed him at age 16 out of Sinaloa, Mexico. Average fastball in the mid-90s. He's trying to get ahead right there. He's got a nice curveball and a good changeup. The changeup probably preferable right now over the curveball as a secondary pitch.
Billy Hamilton, a ball 1 count, and now a ball and a strike. Of course, whenever you think of left-handers from Mexico, especially a Dodger left-hander from Mexico, the first name that immediately comes to mind is not Urias. It would be Fernando Valenzuela.
Yeah, especially young left-handed pitchers from Mexico in Dodger uniforms. Because it was Fernando Mania big time back in 1981 when Fernando was the Rookie of the Year, and every time he pitched, every 5th day, and if his start happened to be at Dodger Stadium, you're talking about not only a full house but a raucous crowd that just was so loud and so unbelievably electric. It was really something to behold because they had a good team other than Fernando Valenzuela. Well, boy, when he pitched, it was a whole different deal.
3-1 on Billy Hamilton. You know, we were talking the other night about Ichiro being, you know, one of only 2 players ever to be the Rookie of the Year and the MVP in the same season. That year, Fernando Valenzuela sparked Fernando Mania. He became the first player in Major League history, the first to be named Rookie of the Year and win a Cy Young Award. Three and two on Hamilton. Gone swinging on that high fastball.
Fernando really could have been named. I have to look up, see who was the MVP that year. But, I mean, the kind of year that Fernando had in 1981, he would have qualified for one of those rare instances, if you go that far to believe that a pitcher should ever be named MVP.
Sure.
He drew so many more people when he pitched. I believe he was the first pitcher ever to have a clause in his contract relative to the number of people that showed up for games, even on the road, when he would get the ball and start a game.
Some may wonder, Fernando Valenzuela is not in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. He won 173 games. He had a lifetime ERA at 3.5. He went to the All-Star game 6 straight years when he first came up, and then he really dropped off after that. But even to this day, still one of the Dodger great ambassadors, and announces their games on television in Spanish. On the road games, they announce the games from a studio in Los Angeles. So you can see him at every home game, but not on the road. 2-1 on Jose Peraza.
But what a welcome back night Peraza had last night. I mean, spraying the ball all over the ballpark, including into the seats.
Hits in each of his first 3 times up, and he hit his first time up today going the other way. Well, there's a lot to like about this young man, isn't it?
Well, you know, the really interesting thing is where he fits in this Reds ball club. Last night, he's getting it done all over the place. That was a home run that he hit the left center field. He had also a base hit to left field, had a base hit to right field, 3 hits on the night for Peraza. But when you look at him and where he fits in, if Billy Hamilton is going to be your leadoff hitter for a long time, you hope, Peraza fits in perfectly as a number 2 hitter.
Sure.
He's got speed, so it gives you almost 2 leadoff hitters back to back at the top of the lineup.
And I think we also both agree, as he continues to get older, there's going to be some pop in that 2-hole in the order with him there as well.
Now, right now, you know, you're going to say, well, what about Zach Cozart? Well, you know, the only reason Peraza is playing now is because Cozart is injured. So it's not like he took over Cozart's position because he's outplayed him. Cozart's had a very fine year, and he's an excellent defender, and he had a tremendous first half offensively. So, you know, I don't know in the short-term future what's going on, but long-term, you like the idea of Hamilton Peraza.
Hooked foul by Brandon. 285 hitter, 8 home runs, 50 runs batted in. Brandon 1 of 5 in a game here last night. Urias, the second youngest player to ever put on a uniform in this ballpark at 20 years and 9 days. Bryce Harper, like Doc Gooden many years before him, played as a 19-year-old in Cincinnati. And Peraza is picked off. Pretty nifty move right there, and Peraza was leaning to begin with.
You really never know until you see it live. You can watch video, you can be warned about it. The Reds have had more than their share picked off at first base, and he's moving to second base on that. So if he's not ready to steal on that, he doesn't get picked, no question about it. So you file it away and say, okay, you got me this time, we'll see what happens next time.
Two balls and a strike on Phillips. more game to go tomorrow in this series at wraparound game Monday afternoon, 12:35. First pitch tomorrow. Tickets are available. Come on down. We won't have it for you on television. We're back your way Tuesday night when the Rangers come to town for the first of a quick 2-game series. And 2-1 Phillips, and a jam shot flare to center, a base hit. Well, it certainly magnifies a pickoff a moment ago rather than 2 on and 1 out. And Duvall coming up. Phillips at first with 2 away defensively for the Dodgers. Reddick back in there. Tolles to start out at left. Seager after a night off along with Utley making up the middle infield, and Grandal behind the plate. At the end of the day, Urias is still a very, very young pitcher trying to navigate his way through the ups and downs of every young pitcher. He's given up more hits than innings pitched, very high walk total. So he's by no means been overpowering to begin his major league career. Reds get 2 hits, leave a man, end of 1. Dodgers in front 1-0.
And it's got to be nice for Reds fans to see some positive numbers. 5 straight wins, first time this season. 2 straight wins over the Dodgers after losing 9 consecutive games to LA. And 15 straight home games with 3 or more runs. They're going to need some runs today as Anthony DeSclafani begins the 2nd inning of work.
And Jimbo, it's very nice to see you donning the golf shirt today. You've been talking about it the entire homestand, but not done it till today.
No, I've had golf shirts on the last 2 days.
You
I'm
did?
very unnoticeable. I know. I kind of hide.
I guess I just, well, one of the days I wasn't there. So
that's true.
That's number 1. So I beg your
Actually,
pardon
you know
for
what?
yesterday.
Yeah. Last 2 days. It's all right, though.
But early in the homestand, you were talking about doing it and you didn't do it.
I know. I let myself down, and you.
1-1 to Yasmani Grandal, former number 1 pick of the Redlegs out of the University of Miami in Florida. Grandal involved in that Matt Latos deal. He, along with another number 1 pick of the Reds and Yonder Alonso, a second-round pick, Brad Boxberger, and right-hander Edinson Volquez, all 4 of those players on December the 17th of 2011. My, how time flies. Were sent from the Reds to San Diego from Latos. And make no mistake about it, for those first 2 years, Latos was as advertised. 1 away in the inning. I mean, when Cueto went down that year, Latos became the man in this starting rotation as the Reds were marching into the playoffs. You know, it's always so interesting, Chris, is Josh Reddick will bat with 1 away, 1-0 Dodgers lead it. You know, you always hear every general manager, doesn't matter what team or what the deal is, almost as if they're reading from cue cards. They will say, well, you got to wait 4 or 5 years down the road to make a decision if it was a good trade or a bad trade. As Reddick lines out to Hamilton. The first 2 or 3 years of that deal, it looked like a great trade for the Reds because Latos was that good.
Well, he was. He ended up going 28 wins against 11 losses the first 2 years, and then he dropped off, and the Reds ended up trading him in 2015 for the guy that's on the mound right now, Anthony DeSclafani, and a minor league catcher and a good prospect in Chad Wallach, who's down in AA right now.
So you say to yourself as you look back now, and here we are nearly 5 full years later, how would many then judge that deal? There was no doubt about it the first couple of seasons. It was a landslide in favor of the Reds. But what about now? Boxberger's been to an all-star game. Now, not with San Diego, but with Tampa Bay. Randall was wrapped up in the PED scandal. Came back to play after serving a suspension.
And he's had some serious injuries as well.
And so too is Alonso. And Edinson Volquez has gone on and, you know, bounced around 2 or 3 different teams since then before, you know, finding his way in Kansas City and winning a World Series.
Well, I think when the Reds made that deal, they thought they had enough prospects to be able to cover the loss of those players that they sent away, and they needed a solid frontline pitcher in order to get a very good team into the playoff hunt. So, you know, I can't say it was a rental pitcher situation like you see so many times where guys only good to be there for a few months, but it was for a couple of years anyway that the Reds wanted to keep that team intact and, you know, think that they were going to be a championship caliber team, and Latos was a big part of that puzzle.
Peterson, the batter, and he has gone swinging the 5th straight time he has struck out in the last game and won it back. 1-0 LA. CFA Redwood hit a home run off that Toyota sign during our game today. Jim Schumacher of Wilder KY would win that beautiful new Tundra. And you can register for your chance to win it. Just stop by your Cincinnati and or Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. 1-0. Reds, good crowd, beautiful, beautiful day. On this Sunday, August 21st in Cincinnati, Ohio. Suarez de Jesus Holt against Urias, who allowed 2 hits, faced 4 batters, but he picked off Peraza to avoid some trouble there in that opening inning. Breaking ball and a beauty right there. Suarez, 3 hits, 9th time he's done that in a game this season. That's the most on this Reds team for 3-hit games over 2016. And he also drew a walk, so on base 4 times. 2 singles, a double, and a walk.
Hey, pretty nice guy to have at the bottom of the order. I can't say he's now today he's not in the bottom of the order with Joey Votto not playing, but you know, you put him in the number 7 spot where he was last night. I mean, he's the type of player that sometimes, you know, a pitcher, you get down to that part of the order and you relax just a little bit, because the 8th hitter is a guy that normally belongs in the 8th spot, and then you've got the pitcher coming up, so you let your guard down a little bit. But you can't do that with Suarez, especially on pitches that are down in the zone and out over the plate.
He's in a lot of pain right now. Fouled that ball off his foot.
Oh.
That went from his left foot to his right shin.
Yeah, perfect spot for Urias to throw that pitch. You know, we've said it here before, and you hear pitching coaches talk about it. You want to drop that breaking ball on the back foot of a right-handed hitter, and it was on its way, but Suarez decided to swat it off his front foot. That's the kind of a ball that you foul off your foot that you can break a bone in your foot. You can be out and for a long period of time.
And then he comes right back in there, and that's strike 3 call. It'll be a slow, painful walk back to the dugout for Suarez. He is limping badly.
What a great pitch to follow it up with. Nice, quick. You know, interesting time we were talking off air between innings about, you know, Julio Urias has been an uber prospect. I mean, he's atop the leaderboard in a lot of different consensus of who are the best prospects in minor leagues, and he doesn't come in throwing 98 or 100 miles an hour. He doesn't look like he's got one great trick pitch that's unhittable. But he looks like he's got a delivery that he can repeat, that he has a pretty good idea about pitching. You know, they call him a veteran wrapped up in a 20-year-old body is the way they describe him, and that's a great way to look at him, because it seems like that. I mean, he's around the plate for the most part, although he's averaging about 4 walks per 9 innings. His strikeout rate when he got to the major league is almost identical to what it was last year and earlier this year in the minor leagues.
Ivan De Jesus Jr., originally a Dodger, takes a fastball up and away, 2 balls and a strike.
I've always thought that the biggest adjustment a young pitcher has to make when it comes to the major leagues is the smaller strike zone. That and the fact that those rolling breaking balls that get AA and AAA hitters out, they get smoked here.
Well, one thing this young man does not do, and that is give up the home run ball. It did him his first couple of games in the major leagues, but now he is not allowed a home run in any of his last 6 starts. That goes back to the middle of June. Two on the way. Hit hard down the right field line, but out of play. Being left-handed in his body type, he reminds you a lot of the very good start to a career for Ryu, the Korean pitcher the Dodgers had a couple of years ago.
Who they just got bad news on will not pitch the rest of this season. A nice changeup right there. Once he starts getting that pitch going, look out.
Yeah, and you can see with this assortment of off-speed stuff, you can see why everybody's so high on this young man.
I mean, really all you need as a starting pitcher is 3 pitches you can throw for a strike that are at least average. That's a above average changeup, circle change. Not a lot of down and away movement, but great selling action. Sells it as a fastball.
The Dodgers really need somebody to step up, because as we have seen the last couple of games, pitchers they have brought back from recent injuries, it has been ugly. Bud Norris 2 nights ago, Brett Anderson 3 innings last night, injured again, 6 runs he gave up. Without Clayton Kershaw to really right the ship every 5 days, it has been a mighty struggle for these Dodgers. Yet there they are, 12 games over 500, a half game behind the Giants in the West, and those 2 teams get together beginning on Tuesday night in LA.
Don't you feel like it's going to go right down to the wire between these 2 teams, because it really doesn't look like a dime's worth of difference between the 2 of them when you look at them. I mean, they're constructed different ways. The Giants may have better starting pitching. Dodgers certainly put a lot more runs on the board. It could be whether Kershaw comes back and pitches the way he can, whether Brett Anderson can get straightened out. Kershaw is the big key for this Dodger team. There's no doubt about it, especially and if they make it to the playoffs.
But that was where Kershaw has not been the same pitcher in the postseason that he has been through a Hall of Fame-like start to a career during the regular season. Swinging a foul ball back out of play. Started to talk about last night some of the the numbers for Kershaw, lowest ERA among many other categories in baseball over the last 5 years. But the postseason has been a little bit different story for the native Texan. Threw much better in the playoffs last year. He won a game and lost a game in the division series. Look at his postseason career numbers, and they don't look anything like the Clayton Kershaw you see during the regular season. Look at the walk total. And the earned run average up over 4.5.
Wasn't Greg Maddux a little bit like that?
Yes.
And then you have other guys who have completely dominated in the postseason. Curt Schilling is one that has had some great postseason performances and wasn't anywhere close to being as good as Kershaw or Maddux during the regular season of his career. I don't know how you figure that out, but kind of interesting to note.
It seems like more times than not, and not every time, there are certainly examples of all the above, but it seems like the power guys, Chris, are the guys that seem to rise up in the postseason. The real true power pitchers. That's where Smoltz was so much better than Glavine and Maddux for Atlanta all those years when they got to the playoffs. He was the dominant starter. The same held true for Schilling.
I think
conversely, Randy Johnson was not a great postseason pitcher until the last time or two he had a chance to get there. This will be a 1-2-3 inning for the Dodger left-hander. We move to the 3rd, and LA in front on an Utley home run, 1-0. .com at bat. Stay up to the moment at any moment. Game day, live game video highlights, StatCast news, and so much more. Download MLB.com at bat today. Eight, 9, and 1 of the Dodger batting order here in their third inning. Chase Utley led off the game with a home run to the seats in deep right field, and that's the only run for either team so far. Hot smash. Look at Brandon leaving his feet and then a throw in the dirt. Phillips, the last couple of weeks, has really shown flashes of what we've been watching for a decade.
Well, he got such a good jump on this ball. It was a smash. He grabbed it on one hop and unfortunately wasn't able to throw a ball that was able to be handled by DeJesus. Toles can run, and that's why Brandon tried to make that play in a hurry.
That is a foul ball. So it's home plate umpire. You know, Phillips will be the first to tell you that he's not running the way he used to run. Although he still runs pretty well. I tell you what, he is still some kind of athlete. He's in great physical condition. He's a much bigger man than you think he is when you see him on TV. He goes around 6'1", 210 pounds. Good bunt there. And it will advance the runner. One away in the inning. That young man has proven he can do that as well. That's already his fourth sacrifice bunt. It's only his 11th start.
Well, I was just going to mention how comfortable he looked up there trying to lay that bunt down. I mean, the last pitch that he bunted was 94 fastball, but he just looked like he's been doing that for a long time.
So here comes Utley, led off the game with that long home run to right field, and looks at a fastball at 93, knee high on the outside corner, a called strike. Lines this one into right, a base hit. They're going to wave around the runner. He will easily score. And a really poor decision by Tyler Holt.
Well, we have seen him do that an awful lot. Just try to be a hero of a thrower out there. And with Toll's speed, and the Reds go over these kind of reports, and they know how these guys run. That was a base hit all the way. Tolles reads it immediately, and there's no way you're going to get him at the plate. So you keep the double play in order, and you just at least throw it low enough so that it can be cut. Got to be very frustrating for the Reds coaching staff to see that.
Well, Utley starting his second game of this series. He had 2 hits here on Friday night. He already has 2 at-bats, 2 hits, 2 runs batted in on this Sunday afternoon, and the Dodgers with a 2-0 lead. Utley at second for Seager, who struck out his first time up and now behind 0-2.
Well, Utley has shown himself in this ball game to have the old-fashioned Chase Utley swing. Very quick to the ball. That last pitch, DeStefani was trying to crowd him inside, and he got it on the inner third. But I mean, he just gets a bat hit through quickly. Maybe they want to pitch him down and away, maybe mix in some breaking stuff next time up.
Seager drafted out of high school. Grew up in North Carolina, was the Gatorade 2012 Player of the Year in the Tar Heel State. Northwest Cabarrus High School. He was one of the captains for the USA 16 and under national team, so he's been a huge prospect since he was very, very young.
Well, you know, you get his body type. Big guy, strong, very athletic, plays shortstop, and hits left-handed. That's a pretty good start right there. That's where he ranks amongst all the rookies, and I say he's got it pretty well wrapped up.
Well, it's a baseball family. His father played in college at Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. He has two brothers that were both drafted by the Seattle Mariners. Still a ball and 2 strikes. He's only 22 years young, is Seager. Remember, they brought him up near the end of last year, played in 27 games and hit nearly 340. In those 17 games, he had 13 extra base hits and knocked in 17 runs, and got a lot of playing time in the division series against the New York Mets. And there's a bullet into left center field that'll knock in another run. Utley will easily score. And that makes it 3-0 LA. And the left-handed batters are doing the damage against DeSclafani. We mentioned some of his struggles with lefties this year.
Well, they're doing it against a fastball, really, and that pitch is not all that bad of a pitch, but it's still knee-high instead of down below the knees. And after fouling off a couple of breaking pitches, Seager is able to just take a really good swing and line it the other way.
His hitting streak goes to 12 games in which he's been a .470 hitter.
That changeup of DeSclafani, he's going to have to stay with that pitch and really be stubborn with it. I mean, just because you don't get good results early on with it, you can't just stick it in your back pocket, forget about it, and then against left-handers become a 2-pitch pitcher. You've got to have something slow going away from the hitter. He's got the slow breaking ball against righties. He's got to develop that changeup against lefties.
0-1 to Justin Turner. Seager, big man, not a big base stealing threat, only 4 attempts, and he's been thrown out 3 of the 4. Short center, Billy will get there in time, and that's his second out of the inning. Dodgers have 3 hits and 2 runs in this third, and DeSclafani trying to put it to an end against the always dangerous Adrian Gonzalez. Short left, Duvall is there hitting over, but the Dodgers scored twice on 3 hits and lead in the middle of the 3rd inning by 3.
Game edition. It's brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. Tucker Barnhart will lead off this half inning for Cincinnati. And would you like to play fantasy football against Tucker and some Reds players? We have the chance to do so against Tucker, Zach Kozar, Devin Mesoraco, Dan Straley, Tyler Holt, Josh Smith. It's Big League Impact, and deadline is tomorrow. It's coming up this Wednesday, and participants will be treated to a VIP ballpark experience. It includes drafting and playing fantasy football against a Reds player, a tour of the ballpark, team photos, autographed memorabilia. You'll get to see batting practice, tickets to the game, so it's quite the experience. Go to bigleagueimpact.org, and that was an organization started by Adam Wainwright. And Skip Schumacher headed it up for the Reds, and has since turned it over to Tucker Barnhart. And all proceeds are going to charity, including the Reds Community Fund. So it's a cool idea.
It is a cool idea. Jim, are you a fantasy league football player?
I used to be a fanatic. I used to have like 4 and 5 leagues, but of late I have not been. But I have in the past, big time.
1-1 to Tucker Barnhart. How about you, Mr. Welsh?
Negative on that, unfortunately. No. This is, for me, the best time of the year to be golfing. Tough to balance.
Yeah, but you watch a lot of football.
When it gets going, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about to get going real soon.
Real soon. So with the high schools over in the Commonwealth and across the border in Indiana started their seasons this weekend. And they'll be off and running in the Buckeye State this coming Friday night. And then the college action gets going the weekend after that. And then the NFL action the week after that. Barnhart retired to begin the Reds trailing by 3. Coming up later, we'll have our Miller Time moment. And that's presented by Miller Lite. Urias gave up 2 hits in the first inning. But after a 1-out single to Peraza, got a big out by picking Jose off. Phillips had a hit, but he retired Duvall on a routine ground ball. 5 in a row set down by this Dodger rookie left-hander.
Yeah, he's beginning to look like he's really in a groove, making it look easy. Reds are doing their best to try to step out, upset his timing a little bit. But he's pumping a lot of fastballs for strikes. And then when he does that, he's able to get his off-speed stuff in there for strikes.
Well, he has the same routine over and over. He's a very quick worker on the mound. He gets the ball, steps right on the rubber, throws both hands into the air, takes a big deep breath, and he's standing there waiting on the batter to get in the box. Made a nice play there. 2 out.
Now, Julio Urias is a young man that was signed by the Dodgers at 16. We said that already, but he knew when he was 5 years old he wanted to be a major league player. And all the articles that I've read about Urias, he's a young man that has really been prepared by his family to be a big leaguer. Growing up in a town, a very small town about 10 miles outside of Culiacan, which is the capital of Sinaloa, Mexico. His father played a year of pro ball. And one of the things his father did when he was just a kid is teach him to pitch inside. The way he did that is he would stand in the batter's box with a glove. And he'd say, come on, throw it at me. And he was afraid of hitting his father, but every time he went inside, his father would catch it with a glove. So he got the confidence of being able to throw in there without actually hurting somebody, which is one of the fears that pitchers have about coming in on a batter.
Dad sounds like a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah, and not only that, his grandfather would squat behind home plate and be the catcher. And they had built a little mound in their backyard. And he practiced, of course, an awful lot. Now, he was a gifted athlete, always played with kids older than himself. And he was so good as a young player that a lot of people were convinced that he was much older than he actually was.
19 years old when he got the call that he was coming to the major leagues. His family met him in New York.
And he has struck out Billy Hamilton back-to-back perfect innings. He has 4 strikeouts in the game and leads 3-0 at the end of 3.
Into the golf zone, our PGA pro Jimmy Hanlon, and his colorful attire shows you great tips to lower your handicap and talks with you about this weekend's tournament. Get inside the golf zone with Jimmy Hanlon, presented by American Eagle Mortgage and Varmint Guard, tonight at 8 on Fox Sports Ohio.
Always look forward to catching up with Jimmy Hanlon. Great. And here at Great American Ballpark, it is a 3-0 Dodgers lead as they bat in the 4th inning. Young Dodger left-hander has been so impressive so far here today. He is pitching much better than many of his starts to begin his major league career. Pitching relief his last time out, but you look at his starts leading up to this one. Only 1 time has he gone 6 innings. Only 4 times has he gone 5 or more, and 3 of those 4 are 5, 5, 5 1/3. So,
well, he's on a strict pitch count and innings count. So one of the things the Reds obviously would like to do today would be, have him get his pitch count up there. Be patient at the plate. Hope he gets wild, but he's not been wild. He's thrown a lot of strikes today.
Oh, he had walked, as Chris mentioned earlier, better than 4 batters per 9 innings coming in, and not issued a single walk today. Swing and a miss, and Grandal strikes out. Number 3 for DeSclafani. Josh Reddick. It's his 17th game since coming over. You saw those overall numbers. Those are numbers that include combining the numbers from the American League before the trade, where he was hitting just short of 300. Had 8 home runs and 28 batted in. It is his 17th game for the Dodgers. He does not have a home run, does not have an RBI. He has 1 double and is batting in the 150s. And here's a weak pop up to shallow center that'll be out number 2.
Been doing a lot of that.
Man, oh man, the trades the Dodgers have made to try to improve so far this year have not gone well at all.
Well, we've seen Jock Peterson here last year in that home run derby, and boy, he was popping him out of here head to head against Todd Frazier. But in this series, Last time, 5 times he's been to the plate, he has gone down striking out, including one today. Made the last out of last night's ball game, in which he struck out 4 times in a row. And you know, I said it before, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but he just gets his swing going so early that you can see on that pitch right there, that was simply an unhittable pitch that was outside the zone. It's almost like he makes his mind up. I'm swinging at this pitch, and then I'm going to try to track it and get my bat on it. I mean, for him to be a successful major leaguer, and he might be before it's all said and done, there's going to have to be an adjustment, especially when there's 2 strikes on him.
Be a 2-out single for Peterson, and the inning continues for Tolles.
This ball hit very hard, though.
Peterson was drafted in the 11th round. He had committed to play baseball at the University of Southern California. His father was drafted by the Dodgers back in '81, played a total of 8 games in the major leagues. He grew up, still makes his home right outside the campus of Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. It's always funny whenever you hear somebody is from that town. I think the first thing everybody pictures is Stanford, how beautiful it is. You've seen it maybe on a football game on television, whatever the case may be, and you know about the reputation academically. If you've ever gone to Palo Alto, California, make no mistake about it, there is a nice part and there is a really, really not so nice part of Palo Alto, California.
I can't say I've ever been there and made that distinction.
Oh, man.
I know that you can get there very easily with the BART, which is the Bay Area Rapid Transit System right out of downtown San Francisco.
And if you're coming from the Bay Area or from downtown, you're getting off the BART and you're turning right. If you get off the BART and you turn left, hard to believe that world exists so close to the other side. That's that old proverbial other side of the tracks. And 2 on Tolles.
Well, Tolles may not know anything about Palo Alto, but he knows a little bit about athleticism. He comes from a terrific athletic bloodline. His father, Alvin, was a hard-hitting linebacker when he played for Tennessee in the early 80s. In fact, he was a first-round draft pick of the New Orleans Saints in 1985. His mother played basketball at University of New Orleans. His uncle Johnny Jones also played in the NFL.
He had a good long career. Reds bat in the 4th, down by 3.
series, and one of them is Corey Seager. Seager was drafted a couple years behind Schebler, and highly touted, as you guys said, is Seager. And Seager said he faced some professional jealousy coming up through the system, but not from Scott Schebler. He said he's way too genuine of a guy to be jealous. You could tell that's not how he was raised. In fact, the two became friends and roommates for 2 to 3 years, and Seager gives Schebler credit. He said when he moved up to the Cal League in 2014 and struggled mightily, it was Schebler who was always coming up with ideas to try to get him through it. And said Schebler, I talked to him, he said, hey, Corey deserves everything he gets. Who am I to be jealous of him? And he said he's a better person than he is a player, which is really saying something. And he thinks that Seager is just scratching the surface of how good of a player he can be. If that's true, that's scary.
Yep, you're right about that. Couple of guys got to be close from different parts of America. Mentioned Seager from North Carolina, of course Schebler from Iowa. It's a big inning for the Reds. Let's see if they can get something going. Yeah, Peraza and Phillips to start the inning. They collected hits, the only 2 hits the Reds have off Urias in the first inning. 1 out. Eight in a row retired by the Dodger left-hander, and here comes Phillips.
They got ahead with off-speed stuff, got that fastball up exactly where Yasmani Grandal wanted it. Although I think they were looking for a swing and miss right there. I'm impressed by the bat speed of Jose Peralta. I mean, he got jammed a little bit on that pitch, but he still had a nice quick swing. First pitch change up for a strike. Boy, oh boy.
Impressive indeed. And his pitch count, this will be number, what, 57. We're just in the 4th inning. In the air and playable in short right for Tyler Holt. Well, Bark in the Park is coming up. Mr. Welsh, and you jumped the gun on that a little bit this week. Imes and Kroger are bringing it back. And you can still buy your Bark in the Park package. Bring your furry friend to the yard. Bubbles will make a return visit, I'm sure. Spots are going fast, so visit reds.com/dogday and purchase today.
Now that is,
Chris, now look at that. It says September the 13th. That is a Monday night against Milwaukee.
Okay.
Not this past Monday night.
You're right. Well, I think, you know, maybe neither of us are paying close enough attention. When you read it once while we were on the road.
Right.
And I looked at you and said, is that Monday? And you said, yeah. So when Monday rolled around, I got Bubbles all ready to go and brought her down here and told everybody up here at the crew I'm heading down to the concourse to visit with all the other dogs. And we were all alone out there.
I mean, imagine the anticipation for Bubbles to have a chance to meet so many new friends, and Bubbles shows up and 1 is the loneliest number.
Well, Bubbles has a good way of making friends very quickly. A lot easier than me, as a matter of fact.
2-1 on Adam Duvall. Well, the Reds are starting to get many good swings off this guy.
Well, you know, there's 2 ways to pitch. One is in and out and up and down in the strike zone. And then the other way, you know, that's you throw inside, then you throw outside, then you move the ball around. The other way is to add a little bit on your fastball and then subtract a little bit with your off-speed stuff. And right now, Urias is doing a combination of both, which makes you very effective.
There's a fly ball in the left center field, and that is a third straight perfect inning for Urias. 3-0 LA. We go to the 5th. A local Ford dealer. Ford go further, and by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. A 3-0 Dodger lead as they come to bat here in the top of the 5th. The Reds have won the first 2 games of this series, and it will be a 4-game series. The finale is tomorrow afternoon at 12:35. It's 1 pitch and 1 out. Pitcher against pitcher to start the inning.
This is one of those games that when you get on the mound, and if you're in the position of Anthony DeSclafani, you're thinking, all right, you know, our offense isn't going good. He's seeing how well Urias, the opposing pitcher, is dealing, and how awkward the swings are the Reds are having. So he knows at this point, I mean, it's got to be pretty much shut down from here on in order for him to keep his team in the ballgame. And the main culprit today is the guy coming to the plate.
Yep, top 2 hitters in the lineup have hurt him the most so far today. Utley, a home run to lead off the game, then drove in a second Dodger run with a single to right in the 3rd. And Seager extended his hitting streak with an RBI single in the 2-run LA 3rd inning. Straight up in the air and out of play. Now this is a guy you look at, Chris, and you say, okay, is this a Hall of Famer? Among active second basemen, and that would be second in most of these categories to Robinson Cano. You're talking about closing in on 1,700 games, scored over 1,000 runs, nearly 1,800 hits, 375 doubles. As a second baseman, 246 home runs, and not all that far away from 1,000 career runs batted in. So you say to yourself, is that Hall of Fame worthy?
It certainly is in the discussion. I would be inclined to give him the nod, yes, because I think over the course of his career, Utley brought a lot more to the table than just those numbers. I mean, I think the intangibles, and if you talk to the Dodger people here who have been around Utley since he was traded there, I mean, what he brings to the young players as far as an attitude every day, not a rah-rah kind of a leader, just a guy that gets on their behinds and gets them out there. Let's go. You have to adopt that tough guy attitude all the time, and I think that's a little underappreciated, especially when it comes to Hall of Fame when guys say, well, let me check the numbers. I would say yes to Utley.
The only part that might hurt him is Chris, so much of the damage that he did from a statistical standpoint occurred in the first 5-6 years of his career. You know, he first came up with Philadelphia and became a regular in 2005. He knocked in over 100 runs. In 4 of his first 5 seasons, he knocked in 93 or more in 5 of his first 6. But starting in 2010, that's a long time ago now. That's 7 seasons ago.
Yeah.
He has only once had more than 11 home runs. Twice has had more than 45 runs batted in. And that's over 7 years. So it will be interesting to see. There's certainly, you know, as more and more of the voters for the Hall of Fame have certainly become familiar with sabermetrics and how much of a factor that will be, because he has a very good on base percentage. He's drawn a lot of walks, you know, those kinds of things. And even when you look at guys like, say, Joey Votto compared to an Adrian Gonzalez, you know, Gonzalez has piled up huge power numbers. He's also walked a lot. But a guy like Votto has so many categories of on base percentage, OPS, things like that, that, you know, how much more important will those things be moving forward to the voters?
I think you make a great point. I kind of approach, and I don't get a vote, so it doesn't matter what my approach is, but I'll tell you what it is. That's a great approach at the plate by Seager. Second time in a row he's gone opposite field for a line drive. But yeah, I take it in the years in which he played, I think the longevity of his career is very important. 14 years. You know, where did he rank amongst his peers as far as the best ball players out there? And it's a complete judgment call. You know, so I would give him the nod. I'm more inclined to let more guys in than fewer, because there are already guys in that, in my book, should be joined by others.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Turner to DeJesus, and that's all for LA. Reds will bat in the 5th, trailing by 3. Third, the Reds will get together with the Cardinals that weekend, and you can be here for as low as $12 thanks to Kingsgate Transportation. The first 25,000 fans on Saturday, September 3rd receive a Eugenio Suarez bobblehead. We'll look forward to seeing you that weekend. That'll be Labor Day weekend, and the Reds will stay right here. On Monday, the New York Mets come to town to start a 3-game series on Labor Day. smash into left center field by the aforementioned Eugenio Suarez. That ends a string of 10 straight retired by Urias.
Yeah, the Reds had a couple bloop hits there in the first inning, one from Peraza, one from Phillips, and ever since that time it has been all Urias. Finally a line drive that finds a spot in the green grass, and maybe the Reds can get something here in the bottom half of the order.
All right, so let's see if the Reds can get something, anything started against this Dodger left-hander. De Jesus Jr. the batter. Strike one. Started two and laid off the pitch under the knees. 1 ball and 1 strike. That was not the same move, the step off and throw move that Urias used to pick off Peraza back in the first inning. That move was the more traditional of picking up that leg and coming to first base. 1-1 the count. 2-1. The most pitches thrown in a game by Urias, 100 when he went 6 innings. That was his best major league start, his longest major league start in Milwaukee on the 28th of June. Allowed 2 hits and 2 runs. Threw exactly 100 in that game. He's not had another game where he went, well, yes, one other, I beg your pardon, 94 against Washington. And he's had 5 others where he's gone 80 or more. So right now, he is far short of being in that kind of category. 68. Dodgers look very confused on what they're doing here on defense. They've started to shift and now they're walking out of the shift. Not quite sure what's happening down there in that Dodger dugout.
That looks like me on the dance floor.
Yeah, but once you started, you made them forget all about the confusion with those nifty moves out there. Travolta-like. I know we said it last night, but for those of you that weren't with us, I still thought that was one of the coolest things I've seen a big-time star do for a crowd when they're out in public. For those of you that weren't here, John Travolta and his family were here again last night, and you know, his family sat through the entire rain delay, and right before they were getting ready to play again, the music in the ballpark started playing Night Fever from that movie that Travolta was the big star in the 1970s, Saturday Night Fever. And he went into that dance routine, and I mean, this place, for those that had stayed around, they really enjoyed it. And man, did he do some dancing in that movie.
Oh, you're not kidding. You know, looking forward on this Dodger starting rotation, Hyunjin Ryu is a left-handed pitcher. Brett Anderson presumably maybe be in the starting rotation next year in a lefty. Kershaw a lefty, Rich Hill a lefty. They could have a road, and Scott Kazmir.
Easy double play here.
I mean, you could be looking at a rotation of all left-handed pitchers. That's another very odd thing about the makeup of this roster. I mean, the more you really examine this roster, the more it leads to some head scratching.
Well, we talked a little bit about this last night, and their young general manager Andrew Friedman, and he had very good success as a GM with not much payroll in Tampa Bay, and while they made the playoffs 4 times during his run there, only once did that Rays club advance on to the World Series, and now here he is in jumbo market LA. And I got to tell you, you look at some of the moves. Now he's hamstrung by some of the deals they've been given in the past, but as we documented last night, when you look at some of the signings that he has made since taking over, head scratching is certainly the first term that comes to mind. And boy, Dodger fans have to really wonder about the trades that have been made so far this year. I mean, the Reddick thing has been so far a complete disaster. They trade for Rich Hill, who has not thrown a pitch for the Dodgers since the deal because of a blister problem. Now he's due to come back this week. And Dave Roberts, a guy who scratches out the lineup and sends him out there.
Trying to keep it all together.
Foul out of play, and it's 2-2 on Tyler Holt. And one name we haven't touched on, and I mean, head scratching indeed, is the plight of one Yasiel Puig, as that one is hooked into left field, and Holt comes up with a 2-out single into left. It'll keep the inning alive for Tucker Barnhart. I mean, Puig was the rave all of baseball. As get a look at this base hit on a breaking ball thrown by Urias. But obviously he had his issues of showing up on time and some off the field situations. Nothing that landed him in major trouble with the law or anything like that, but certainly immature acts over and over and over again by Puig.
Well, he didn't hit well enough in the big leagues this year. The Dodgers sent him down. He had a .260 batting average, but it was all the off the field type stuff that really created a problem for the Dodgers in their clubhouse. So they sent him down to Oklahoma City. That's where the AAA is, and he's hitting .400 down there right now. He's still only 25 years old. He's on a multi-year deal. I imagine before long you're going to see him back up here in a Dodger uniform, and they'll ask him, have you learned your lesson?
Hot smash. Fortunate play there for Turner as it pops right in the air, and he throws over to first, and a nice pick by Gonzalez. Boy, Lady Luck smiles on the Dodgers on that hot smash by Barnhart. 3-0 Dodgers at the end of 5. You nail it down to 2 guys in this Dodger lineup. And you start at the top with Utley, a home run to lead off the game. He knocked in a run in a 2-run 3rd inning with a single in the right center field. So Utley's knocked in 2 of the 3, and then the guy at the bottom part of the batting order, whose primary job is to get him out, has done his job. Very impressive for Julio Urias through the front 5.
20 years old.
Yeah, 20 years and 9 days.
I mean,
well, 10 days ago, he's a teenager. I don't know about you, and you and I talked about this off the air a little bit to finish up that whole Yasiel Puig thing, but we've talked to a number of those that are very familiar with Puig and with the Dodger organization. And you know, sometimes when you're a smaller market team, you have to take chances that maybe you wouldn't otherwise do if you were able to spend a lot more money. And you know, the question is, if you were a team like the Reds, and there were rumors that Jay Bruce was going to go to LA and maybe Puig would be coming back the other way, would it be worth the risk of such an extraordinarily talented young man who's yet to put it all together? Will he ever put it together? Lord only knows, but would you take the chance to bring in Puig? I'm sure there will be teams discussing that very name, if not already, moving into the offseason.
well, the big knocks on Puig are none of the knocks on Puig are baseball related, really. I mean, when he came up and hit .319 his first year as a full-time player, played at 104 games that year. But he's still a .288 hitter lifetime, one-time All-Star. But the knocks on him have all been immaturity-related knocks. Off-field, bad attitude, showing up late. And you're wondering, as you get further and further along in your major league career, you realize at some point, or maybe you don't, but most guys do, I can't go on like this for forever. And maybe you begin to conform a little bit. And if you can get a guy with his talent to join in the group effort, then you've got something.
Well, who knows if the Reds will be part of that conversation, because I think it's safe to say that unless Scott Schebler, who is getting a chance to play every day, it's probably safe to say that unless he really turns things around from an offensive standpoint, that Schebler would be in the mix, or at least in competition with others, for the right field spot looking to 2017 with Jay Bruce no longer here. And for whatever reason, the Reds seem to have had very good success with Cuban-born players in recent years. Aroldis Chapman fit in very nicely here. Yasiel Puig seems to very much enjoy it here. Would that be an option? Fly ball left field, and off the top of the glove of Duvall, and advancing on to third base will be Gonzalez. That'll be a double by Grandal.
Well, a pitch running away. I don't know if that was a changeup or a fastball. I think it was a changeup. He just got that ball up, and nearly a very nice grab by Duvall. We've seen several near plays just not made today by the Reds. A couple of scoops at first base have gotten by. That ball out in left field. You just have those days where some things kind of go your way. They fall in your glove. Other days they just tip off the edge.
Straight up into the air. Hamilton racing in, makes a diving catch, but Gonzalez was about 3 steps down the line at first base, or third base.
Even if he went back to tag up, and tagged up when Billy Hamilton slides and catches his ball, Hamilton pops to his feet so quickly, and he's in such shallow territory. Gonzalez doesn't run a lick anymore. He would have been dead at the plate. I think that when it came off the bat, Gonzalez thought it was going to be a can of corn, and that it was going to be too shallow to tag up anyway.
All right, so Reddick is retired on the pop-up, and here is Jock Peterson. He struck out 5 times in a row before a single into right his last time up. And boy, could DeSclafani use a punch out right here and right now.
Boy, he threw a first pitch fastball in the corner that he's probably still wondering why that wasn't called a strike.
Pulled foul. One pitch in the air, right field, pretty well hit, and the catch made by Holt, but plenty deep enough to bring in a 4th Dodger run as Gonzalez tags up. So Peterson makes it a 4-0 LA lead here in the 6th.
Two-seam fastball right there. I think DeSclafani wanted to start it off the plate and have it come right inside on his hands. Now they will intentionally walk the left-handed hitting Andrew Toles. Bring up the pitcher with 2 outs.
Intentional walk to the number 8 batter. The Reds have action in their bullpen for the first time today. Ross Ohlendorf cranking it up. So first walk by either pitcher in the game today. Well, the pitcher Urias will bat with runners on the corners and 2 outs. Dodgers their largest lead of the afternoon at 4-0. What a play by Suarez, and he'll get the final out of the inning. Boy, that's it. I'm not going to call it a game saver. You're down 4, but that could have been a game changing play there if it gets by him.
sponsored by Audi, returns this week with a red-hot Western Conference rivalry. Don't miss as Clint Dempsey and the Sounders collide with Diego Valeri and the Portland Timbers. It's tonight at 9:30 Eastern on FS1, or you can watch it on Fox Sports Go. Our boy Matt Sigafus will be locked in.
Really?
Big soccer guy. He's a soccer guy.
Soccer guy. Haven't heard that in a while, Jimbo. Reds need a what they used to, what did manager Narin used to call the guy to get it all started? It wasn't an igniter guy. What was it?
Well, they've used igniter guy, set the table guy. Got to have a keep the line moving guy, power guy, speed guy, glue guy. Got to have them all.
Kind of miss Jerry Narin being
there's no
around
doubt.
so that we can use that a little bit more.
We have to bring him back. Well, with the Reds down 4-0 here in the bottom of the 6th inning, Anthony DeSclafani is going to lead off. Then back to the top of the order, Hamilton and Peraza. You know, that's one of the dangers when you carry a player who, you know, more than likely would be unavailable. He hasn't been used to pinch hit. That would be Zach Cozart as DeSclafani is gone. But it looks like that Cozart's going to miss a number of games. He's already missed a number of games. And how many more, of course, you wait and see. But when you continue to keep a player who is not healthy on your active roster, it leaves you, if you include Cozart, as being unavailable. You've got Votto, Schebler, and Renda. Only one is a right-handed batter on your bench. Cabrera is your backup catcher as a switch hitter. So maybe Brian Price not wanting to use one of those players, his lone right-handed bat, maybe, to lead off an inning here in the 6th.
Eventually you're going to use some pinch hitters, so you really wonder when you can mount your rally. Where does the lineup line up and so on. And you know, sometimes when you lead off with the pitcher, that's an ideal time to send up a pinch hitter. Because now you turn the lineup over and you've got the top right on through to your power guys coming up. Presumably, you know, the opposing pitcher is getting towards the end of his game, although Urias hasn't shown any signs of weakness yet, but he's up in the mid-80s. They're only going to give him another 15 pitches or so max. So this could be the last inning.
Billy Hamilton slaps one into left field, a base hit. It's Billy's first hit today. Chris, it will be interesting now. You're starting this 3rd time through the batting order against this Dodger left-hander, a pitcher the Reds have never seen.
Well, the Reds had a leadoff hitter in the last inning when Suarez got a base hit, and he was able to induce a ground ball double play to really help him get out of that inning. Holt singled off of him later in the inning after the double play was completed. And now Peraza, who has had 1 hit before coming off an outstanding night last night.
0-1 on Jose Peraza, the one-time Dodger. And it's on the outside corner, a strike. Peraza was up for 7 games with the major league club in LA last year after being traded from Atlanta to the Dodgers. Played 7 games. Had a double, a triple, an RBI, 4 hits, and just 22 at bats. Of his games were as a center fielder last year in LA. Fouled out of play. And until last year, Chris, he had never played in the outfield during his professional career. That fella making, don't tell me that little guy made that catch, did he? Or did Dad make the play? Dad made it with a foam finger.
Yeah, if you don't have your glove with you, use the next best thing available.
Oh, man, that kid is so excited. And then that kid behind him was sitting next to his dad, and the kid was yelling at the dad, why can't you make that play? See that kid back there with a hot dog, he's furious. It's a big league play.
Yes, it is. Personal little piece of souvenir there. I'll tell you one thing that Urias has done other than striking out Peraza looking right there. He has kept Billy Hamilton from even getting a big lead at all at first base.
Well, where was that last pitch? I thought that pitch was low. Maybe not. That's pretty good.
Right there.
Yep. That's right there. 6 strikeout for the Dodger left-hander. And now Brandon Phillips. Joe Blanton is getting loose in the Dodger bullpen. Shallow center. Peterson did not get a good jump on it, and easily going first to third is Hamilton. So now all of a sudden the Reds have their leading home run hitter coming to the plate. Adam Duvall has 28 of them, and he could bring the Reds within a run if he can connect for a long one right here.
No indication that we're going to see a visit to the mound by Dave Roberts. There's some pacing around by the pitching coach, Rick Honeycutt. They're staying right there at the top of the dugout.
Big at bat right here for Duvall and the Reds. A rare chance to get back in it. Urias has been in complete command the entire afternoon. He allowed a hit in the first inning, but picked off Peraza, then allowed a single to Phillips. Did not allow another Red to reach until the single by Suarez. Got a double play ball before allowing another hit. And now he's given up 2 more hits here in the 6th. With his team in front 4-0. Nothing in 1 on Duvall. And a ball and a strike.
Now, one of the things the Dodgers pitching has done this series, and even the Marlins pitching for that matter in the last few games, is that they've been unable to keep the ball down until today. Julio Urias has kept the ball down very effectively. But boy, when you get the ball up to the Reds here recently, you're going to pay the price. And I'm sure that Urias is concentrating on keeping it down and in the ballpark here. Going with the slider.
1 ball, 1 strike on Duvall. Foul ball out of play. We talked about how stingy this guy has been, Chris, serving up the home run ball.
Well, keeping the ball down is the main thing about keeping the ball in the ballpark. And if you look at where these pitches are, Bud Norris throwing the ball up in the zone. Joey Votto goes deep. Baez up in the zone. Michael Lorenzen opposite field goes deep. And here's a hanging breaking ball from Brett Anderson to Duvall. So if the pitcher provides the elevation, the hitter's right there to provide the bat head. He may have got away with one there.
Well, he's only allowed 2 home runs over his last 49 innings pitched, and none as a starter since June.
That's pretty impressive, and I can see why. I don't see guys really comfortable in the box. I mean, he's got hitters ahead of the pitches and behind the pitches, just like Duvall was late on that fastball after seeing some slow stuff.
Well, maybe he finally makes a mistake. One ball, 2 strikes, 2 on and 2 out. Bryant became the National League's home run leader with a long one last night. Well, if he wants to throw one away with 2 outs in the inning and give you a cheap run, you'll take it all day, every day.
And not only that, but you put another runner in scoring position. But the combination of the 2 moves he's had, he's completely taken any running ideas away from the Reds. Quick little step-off move right here. Boy, that's quick feet, quick hands. Now, Field and Culbreth is heading to the sideline along with the home plate umpire. Are they going to check that? Did the Dodgers ask for a review of that?
Don't know.
That must be what they're doing here.
So it is a Dodgers challenge on the safe call to Brandon Phillips on that pickoff throw to Gonzalez. That didn't last long. Safe. Call stands. Closer than it looked from a naked eye, and real speed, that's for sure. All right. 2 on, 2 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. And here it comes. Popped up. Utley the call and the catch, and that's all for the Reds' threat in the 6th inning. We move to the 7th. 4-0 Dodgers.
Nick Senzel, second overall pick in the draft this year, 46 games at low A with the Dayton Dragons, 309 batting average, 7 home runs, 26 RBIs. He's also scored 30 runs. TJ Friedel, that interesting free agent signing after the draft. Rookie ball in Billings, 13 games, 309 batting average, couple of home runs, 7 runs driven in. And Aristides Aquino at Daytona, 6 home runs in his last 9 games. He's got 22 home runs this season. That's the second most in the Florida State League. And he is a ton of outfield assists as well. He is impressive, a guy that in spring training stood out as a guy with raw talent, but one of those that you look at and like, all right, who is that kid right there? Could be a bright future.
All right, Jimbo, thank you very much. Those are names that we certainly figure to become better acquainted with in the coming years. Dodgers bat here in the 7th inning, top of the order. They've scored 4 runs on 8 hits against Anthony DeSclafani through the front 6. And a 4-0 LA lead. 2 hits, 2 scored, 2 knocked in for Utley in 3 at-bats. Off the end of the bat, but still alive is Utley. 2 balls and 2 strikes. That's a good pitch right there. Hard in on Utley to strike him out.
And I think that's where DeSclafani wanted that pitch in the 2nd inning when Utley was able to get a fastball into right field for a base hit. That time a tumbling breaking ball right down and in. Boy, oh boy, that's a good one. So the last 2 times he's faced Utley, he's gotten him striking out. After the first couple of times, he's given up base hits, including a leadoff homer.
At real speed, that pitch looked like it was thrown much harder than 82 miles per hour. Maybe it was just a late action on it that came straight down.
There's a lot of finish on his pitches, and that's one thing you hear batting coaches talk about opposing pitchers, and pitching coaches talk about pitchers that they're coaching. You know, when you come up out of the minor leagues, sometimes you roll a breaking ball up there and it's good enough to get a minor league hitter out. But in the big leagues, it's got to have finish on it. It has to keep breaking through the zone all the way down, either into the catcher's glove or into the dirt.
Back-to-back strikeouts against the lefties who hurt him today. Utley and Seager, 6 strikeouts in the game. Friday, September 2nd, the Reds and the Cardinals. You can be here for $12, and it's Fireworks Friday. Fireworks presented by Delta. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com. Just got news, young man, Kyle Snyder, a wrestler from the Ohio State University, and the premier name and wrestler on the United States Olympic team, won a gold medal today in the 97-kilogram freestyle. He weighs 214 pounds. A 3-1 winner today. He is a reigning NCAA champion. So congratulations to Ohio State Buckeye Kyle Snyder for winning the gold medal today. It's good stuff. Now those guys, they're a totally different cat. Those wrestlers. Extraordinarily dedicated, disciplined athletes. All of us remember those high school wrestlers or maybe college wrestlers when you went to school with. Man, they were tough guys. Suarez, gloves to his left, and a 1-2-3 seventh, which should be all for DeSclafani, although we'll see. He just batted in the last inning. So we're going to keep it right here as we do every Sunday for the singing of God Bless America. The Dodgers, after 6.5, lead the Reds 4-0.
Kindly remove your hats and face the American flag. Major League Baseball, the Reds and the Dodgers salute the men and women of our armed forces, as well as those who serve to protect in our local police and fire departments. At this time, please help us honor these brave men and women and all our veterans of service, and welcome Ben Walls as he leads us in the singing of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before the start of every game. Everything you need to know on Reds Live right here on Fox Sports Ohio, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Beautiful Sunday afternoon, and let's see if the Reds, Chris, can get something going. Now with Julio Urias working 6 innings of 6-hit shutout baseball, best start of his young major league career. Final 3 innings, the Dodgers will go to their bullpen. It starts with Joe Blanton.
Might be the best move the Reds could hope for right here, is to get Urias out of the game the way he was handling the Reds seemingly effortlessly here this afternoon.
Relief pitching has certainly been a strength for this Dodger team. Only the Washington Nationals have a lower team earned run average than the Dodgers bunch, although this is a rocket off the wall by Suarez into right center. And that's a great way to get it started against this Dodger bullpen. A two-base hit. Second hit for Eugenio.
Well, any dent in the armor is better than what the Reds have been able to do so far. Suarez goes the other way with it, hits it very solidly. Dave Roberts, you know, he doesn't need any convincing about this Reds offense being able to strike quickly. They did it last night with 4 in the first. They did it the night before with 3 in the first.
And the Reds have a couple of good weapons on that bench, starting with, of course, their best hitter, Joey Votto, given the day off as a starter today. Also have a left-handed batter in Scott Schebler. And Schebler now makes his way to the on-deck circle. Strike one on De Jesus. Have his Tyler Holt spot due up next. On 0 for 2 is struck out swinging and bounced into a double play in the 5th. With a runner at second and nobody out. Fastball up high, and De Jesus does not chase it. That's what we were talking about a moment ago. The Nationals are #1 bullpen ERA-wise in the league, and the Dodgers right behind that. It should be noted it has been far more difficult to hit the Dodger bullpen than the Nationals from an opponent's batting average standpoint. Back to the mound, easy play. Opponents are only hitting .213 against this Dodger bullpen. .213, that is by far the lowest in the league. They're batting .235 against the Nationals bullpen. Where you see the difference has been in the home run ball and in the number of innings. Dodger bullpen compared to Washington has thrown 85 more innings this season. The fewest number of innings by any bullpen thrown in the National League this year. That's like the biggest no-brainer of all time. The Cubs. Because their starters' numbers are sick. Cubs starters ERA this year is 2.8. They have won 62 games while losing 28. And their starters in over 750 innings. A 2.8 ERA. The next closest is Washington with an earned run average of 3.5. Wow. 1-1 on Schebler.
I mean, the more you look at the Cubs this year, the run differential is so separated, much better than the closest second place team. That's the number of runs you score versus the number of runs you give up. You know, as you mentioned, the earned run averages, the number of innings their bullpen does not have to work.
It's all for Schebler. So after a leadoff double, back-to-back outs, and here's Tucker Barnhart.
Something going down on the slider right here. Boy, that's tight spin. You see that little red dot? A lot of rotation on that one for Joe Blanton. He's got to have some family and friends here in Cincinnati for this long weekend series. Young man from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
You know, for visiting teams, you always want to get back home, but for visiting teams, it is so rare to ever have a Sunday night where, you know, this game continues on our pace right now. You're finished on a beautiful Sunday at 4:15 in the afternoon. And if you're like Blanton or some others that might have family in town, it's a really nice night to spend some quality time with them. Joey Votto has moved into the on-deck circle. See if Barnhart can keep it alive. 2-0. Pulled the string on him on the outside corner there. A change up for a strike call. Tucker not sure about that call. Runner will advance on to third as it's ball 3 on Barnhart. No action in the Dodger bullpen. So if Votto bats in this inning, he will bat against Blanton. 3-2 on Barnhart. Tucker Barnhart has been among the very, very best Reds hitting with runners in scoring position this year. 24 hits in 63 at bats, a .381 batting average. And he has a runner at third, 2 outs. Here in the 7th, 3-2 pitch. Ball 4. Votto will bat with 2 on and 2 out here in the 7th. Rick Honeycutt will make his way to the mound. Brought up earlier, no one getting loose in the Dodger bullpen. So Votto will bat against the right-hander Blanton. And of course, these two have seen each other a time or two before. Joey 3 for 11 lifetime against Blanton with 3 walks. So in the grand scheme of things for Blanton, that's probably pretty good success.
Yeah. But of course, every time you face Votto, there's a certain amount of the unknown.
Second straight inning, the Reds have had a dangerous hitter with a plate and 2 on. It was Duvall who popped up ending the 6th, and now it's Votto in his career as a pinch hitter is 6 for 20 with a home run. Votto bats for DeSclafani, and he takes on the outside corner a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike on Joey Votto. Throws it foul. Crowd of nearly 29,000 gathering on this beautiful sun splash Sunday afternoon in Cincinnati. Suarez at third. It is Barnhart at first. And that's strike 3 called to Votto.
To know and the guts to say. Catch Colin and Jason for FS1's new daily sports talk show, Speak for Yourself. It's weeknights at 6 Eastern on FS1.
I'll tell you right now, Jim Day, they could put those 2 guys on TV from now until the end of time. Or, you know, Kornheiser and Wilbon, great show. Cowherd and Whitlock's good show. But what do you think if they put on television Marty Brennaman and Chris Welsh every day? What would that show do?
Well, it depends. Is it the public persona Marty or the, I guess it would be the public persona Marty. I'd say we'd have to have a few bleeps along the way, but there'd be some arguing. And there'd be some throwing Chris Welsh under the bus.
Well, as I told
Marty, they were going at it today already on a Sunday, for crying out loud.
You know, as I tried to explain to Marty at lunch today, all of our interaction back and forth is not arguing. It's just love and affection.
And what did he say to that?
Well, he didn't buy that. I can't repeat his exact words, but let's just say he and I disagreed again.
I'm telling you, that should be a television show. Schebler stays in the game to play right field after batting for Holt. Tony Cingrani takes over on the mound. Reds haven't needed him much. He got to save a couple of them in the Florida series. But the first 2 games of this series, the Reds have had their way with the Dodgers. Not today. LA in front here in the 8th, 4-0. And a strike to Gonzalez, 0-2.
Now, if you've got left-handers in your bullpen, you certainly want to have them ready when the Dodgers come to town, because that's where most of their real hitters are. In fact, all the guys that have done damage in this game today, with the exception of Tolles, who scored a run in the 3rd, lefties. Utley a couple of hits, lefty. Seager a couple of hits, lefty. Gonzalez a single and a run scored, lefty. Grandal hit his double left-handed.
2-2 on Gonzalez. Grandal to follow. And then Reddick. Brandon will back up on the second hop. 1 away in the inning. Brandon to the outfield grass to get it 2 away in the inning. Three more games to go in this homestand. One more against the Dodgers tomorrow. That's a good pitching matchup tomorrow. Homer Bailey against left-hander Scott Kazmir. The Dodgers a 10-game winner. And then the Rangers in for a pair. Get a look at Yu Darvish in the finale Wednesday night.
Well, that will be worth coming out and watching a ball game. If you can't make it, of course, we'll have it. But very interesting guy to watch pitch. At least the Reds catch a break and don't see Cole Hamels.
Straight up in the air by Reddick. Man, is this guy struggling. And Cingrani ends up making the catch. Barnard couldn't find the ball. Moment brought to you by Miller Lite. Not necessarily a moment from our game today, but we go back to this date in 2012, the 146th stolen base of the season for Billy Hamilton, and that is an all-time professional record. That's just incredible to think about, isn't it?
I like he's getting a hug there from his mom, who is here in attendance this weekend. Came up to see Billy for this long homestand. New pitcher for the Dodgers, Pedro Baez, comes in to pitch the bottom of the 8th inning. Baez, boy, look at the strikeout to walk ratio for Pedro Baez. That is some kind of impressive right there.
So Blanton gives him an inning, allows a hit, a walk, strikes out 2. The big strikeout of Votto, looking, stranding 2 in the 7th inning. 4-0 Dodgers, and the Reds down to their final 6 outs. And Jansen misses down low. Or I beg your pardon, Jansen is warming up in the bullpen. Forgive me. And Ohlendorf warms up in the Reds bullpen. Baez, big man. Reminds you a little bit of Jumbo.
Has a kind of the same takeaway with the ball coming up the back of his right thigh as he just tries to hide it completely from the pitcher. Jumbo does that. Johnny Cueto did that and still does.
Top of the order for the Reds here in the 8th inning. 2-2 on Hamilton, who singled his last time up. 1 of 3 in the game. Full count. Billy gone on strikes for the 3rd time in 4 at-bats, 1 away.
Baez 95 with movement.
Peraza 1 for 3, singled way back in the 1st inning, was picked off, has since flied to left and struck out looking. Roller by the mound, and Seager didn't look like he needed to barehand that necessarily, but the rookie tried it. It goes an infield hit.
You know, sometimes the reputation of speed can change the way you go about making a play. And, you know, from our vantage point up here, Tom, we see perfectly, you know, the speed of the ball, where the player is fielding the ball, how fast the runner's getting up the line. And so you say, well, you didn't really need to barehand that ball. But when you're down there at shortstop and all you hear about is how fast Billy Hamilton and then Jose Peraza run, then he maybe figured that was the only way he was going to make the play.
Brandon, 2 hits and 3 at-bats, a single to center, a pop-up to right, and another single to center. Cardinals beating up Philadelphia today 5-0. Pirates trailing in the 7th at home to the Marlins by a run.
Mike Leake on the mound for the Cardinals today.
Comes out in Denver. Boy, I can't help but harken back. Never forget, as long as I live, the first season of Colorado Rockies baseball when they were playing in Mile High Stadium. Out there with the Cubs in a 4-game series over 4th of July weekend, and the 4-game series drew in excess of 280,000 fans. That will never happen again. There's no stadium that could hand out free tickets and draw 70,000 plus per game in baseball. Never seen anything like it.
Well, they were drawing over 60,000 when they had a minor league team there in Colorado on certain days.
Sure.
4th of July being one day, which is always one where they had 60,000 plus.
Just like you draw it up. And that's all for the Reds in the 8-6-4-3. We head for the 9th. Dodgers in front 4-0.
Redlegs take on the Cardinals for as low as $12. Thanks to Kingsgate Transportation, the first 25,000 fans will receive a Suarez bobblehead. Tickets 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/tickets. Well, we've heard about Julio Urias, highly touted youngster, and he backed it up today. 6 innings, no run baseball. DeSclafani goes 7 innings, but thus far no offensive support.
Young man, very, very impressive. Our first look at him with the Dodgers here today, and now taking over in the 9th with the Reds down 4-0 is the veteran right-handed Ross Ollendorf. Jock Peterson to lead things off for LA. He'll be followed by Tolles and then the pitcher spot. Peterson 1 of 2, a single, a strikeout, and knocked in a run with a sac fly in the 6th. Nowhere near the strike zone on either of those first 2 pitches by Ollendorf.
Both of them change-ups. He may have to come with a fastball here to Peterson.
.2-0 delivery. And dribbled foul. He came with a changeup.
Sure did. We've seen him do that more and more recently. A lot more off-speed pitches here for Ross Ollendorf rather than a fastball. There's the changeup grip. wants it again.
And again, I mean, just looking dead red over there is Peterson, and he is so far out in front of the ball. Hit that ball off the end of the bat.
All right, so let's think along with Ross Ollendorf right here. You've thrown him 4 changeups in a row. You try to sneak a heater by him here?
What do you think? You're the guy that used to pitch in the big leagues, not me.
I think you stay with it.
All right, let's see.
Barnhart wants another one. Nope. Now Ollendorf shakes off and he wants a slider.
That's it, John.
Little quick pitch there.
Leadoff man aboard Peterson. He'll take first base. And here comes Tolles getting to start today and has had a nice game. A single, a run scored. Bounced into a fielder's choice. He also was intentionally walked.
And he's had a couple of nice running catches in left field.
Comes with a fastball at 94 off the inside corner. Indians leading in their game over Toronto. That's a matchup of division leaders up in Cleveland, Ohio. 3-2, tight one last of the 8th inning. The Tribe batting. Cleveland with a 7-game lead in that American League Central. And now they've gone to the 9th. That's a pretty slick play right there by Peraza. Boy, that is beautifully done. Very, very nice. That ball kicked off the mound. Now he was going to cover the bag with a runner going, but watch it hit off that. That's pretty quick hands there.
I mean, there was a lot of things going on there for Peraza to try to decipher. One, the ball went right off the mound through the legs of Ross Ollendorf. Yeah, the runner sliding into second base just about the same time. So he's got to field the ball, tag the bag, avoid the runner trying to take him out, and then complete the play to first base. Good baseball instinct.
Oh, and 1 on second in the pinch hitting. Batting for Baez, who works a scoreless inning, allows a hit and gets a strikeout. Broken bat, out of play. Boy, I tell you, some of the fellow fans to one another, man, they can be tough. I mean, that guy dropped that ball. I mean, look, you know, you think it's coming faster than it was. He'd love to have another chance at it. All right, he kicked it. It happens. I mean, some of the fans just immediately breaking into a major league boo. It's pretty tough.
You just got to stop leaving your neighbors tickets.
You're right. They've had enough. Oh, man. But you know what? Here in the heartland, we're a little kinder, a little gentler. That would have happened in Philadelphia or New York. They boo louder. They boo better there.
Longer.
Yeah.
Well, they're just better at it, yeah. I mean, it's more their DNA.
No question. No question about it. I mean, if you want to hear brutal booing, those are the two towns you have to go to.
Well, sometimes you pick the paper up, and what you read is like booing in text.
That's exactly right. Boy, I mean, a pinch hitter. Off speed on a 3-2 pitch in the ninth with 2 down and nobody on. Our Volkswagen drive of the game. It's been a very good day for Utley, and it started the very first at bat of the game with a home run to the seats in right field. It's 19 home runs in his career against Cincinnati pitching. If you include another, it would be 20 in the postseason. The only teams he has hit more home runs against, and naturally all would be in the National League East, where he played far more games against those teams and outside the division while in Philly. Hit 38 against the Mets, 30 against the Marlins, 23 against Atlanta, now 20 against the Reds in about a third the number of games. You know, here was a guy they really didn't boo much in Philadelphia. We talked about how rough they can be. But even through all the injuries and the decline in skills for Utley, rarely ever booed. And even though from time to time they've let Ryan Howard have it, a lot of fans remember how great they were to that franchise for many, many years.
Yeah, they had other favorite candidates for booing besides Utley. I think Howard was probably the guy that would surpass Utley. I mean, if one was struggling, likely they were both struggling.
Yep. In fact, last week, or this week, earlier this week, Utley went back to Philadelphia for the first time wearing a Dodger uniform, hit 2 home runs in a game, including a grand slam, and he received a pair of curtain calls from the Philadelphia faithful. In recent years, the player, although he wasn't there very long, but he was booed unlike any other, was Jonathan Papelbon. Because the Philly fans knew he didn't want to be there.
And he made it clear that he didn't want to be there.
And he acted like it, talked about it, and they let him have it. Two and two on Chase Utley. Foul tipped into the mitt of Barnhart. The Reds will bat, bottom of the ninth, trailing by 4. Brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices. Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. All right, bottom of the ninth. One more crack at them. And the Reds down 4-0 in Game 3 of this 4-game series. Even though it's a non-save situation, we get a look at the Dodger closer, Kenley Jansen.
Well, he's an awfully good one. Kenley Jansen is 70 strikeouts against only 9 bases on balls. So the combination of power and control at the forefront. And that power pitch is a power cutter, a fastball that he just throws naturally and it automatically just runs away from right-handers and right into left-handers.
Smash, foul ball by Duvall. That's jumping all over that cutter right there, but a little too far out in front. You're talking about Chris, he has that strikeout pitch working.
Well, when you start looking at the number of walks he's given up, that's when he really separates himself from everybody else.
Of course, for the last number of years, that was Aroldis Chapman on the top of that list in the National League, but not anymore. To strikeout 2 begin the Reds at ninth. Just gas 93 up in the strike zone.
Now the difference between a cutter and a slider and a four-seam fastball sometimes can be rather subtle, but if you looked at that, you'll see the ball coming a little bit off the side of his fingers. The last finger that it touches is his index finger. One of the ways that guys who throw natural cutters end up releasing the baseball. Right here, if you just look at that last point of contact between the baseball and the fingers, it's coming off the index finger, and a little bit of a rotation, kind of like a football. Not very much, just enough to get that ball to move a little bit away from right-handers. The key to the cutter is like a lot of pitches, though, is you stay behind it. You start working on the side, then, I mean, too much on the side, then it flattens out on you and doesn't do what you want. You lose some velocity as well.
Suarez, a pair of hits and 3 at-bats, struck out his first time up, but has since singled into left center and doubled off the wall in right center. That batting average on the rise for Suarez. He's been very hot of late. Batting average had dropped into the 230s. Now he's up above 250.
Yeah, with his power numbers, I mean, that right there is pretty respectable. 19 home runs, nearly 60 runs batted in.
And even though he got a lot of playing time after the Cozart injury last year, this is his first full start to finish season in the major leagues. And he has his 10th 3-hit game of the year, and that's most on the Reds. He got his 9th 3-hit game of the year last night. And not only is it his first full year in the big leagues, it's his first full year playing third base.
Well, another pitch that's down in the zone. We keep talking about how good he is at pitches that are down. If you see where he sets up, holds the bat very high, just drops the bat head and finds a hole on the left side. That's a smooth swing. And he's a powerfully built man. I mean, you know, you stand up next to him and you realize, man, he's a pretty strong guy.
Ivan De Jesus Jr. hitless in 3 at-bats, getting the start in place of Joey Votto at first base today. Reds down to their final out. Fastball at 95. Second strikeout for Jansen. Now Shebler trying to find a way somehow, some way to bring the tying run to the plate here in the bottom of the 9th. Shebler and Barnhart would have to reach for that to happen. Shebler down a strike. Sure, the Giants, who don't play until much later tonight, keeping an eye on this one. Giants with a half-game lead over the Dodgers for first place in the NL West. Mets and Giants will play tonight. Taking second is Suarez. Told you in the wild card, the Dodgers have the best overall record. St. Louis 2 behind them, but St. Louis owns a second spot. A game and a half better than Miami, and 2 better than the Pirates. One and 2 on Shebler. Pirates still losing as they bat at home, down a run to the Marlins in the bottom of the 8th inning. Here you see the National League wild card. After a brief meeting, back at it. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Shebler. Fastball way out of the strike zone. 2-2. And that's all. The combined 9-hit shutout by Urias, Blanton, Baez, and Jansen. Dodgers win their first game of this 4-game series. It comes in the 3rd game of the series. 4-0 the final, and the Reds' season best 5-game win streak comes to an end. Reds Live, the postgame is coming up right now. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.